Okay. So the first thing we want to talk about before we talk about how to best organize your Google Classroom really is to talk about the weird time we're living in and how we can make our peace with it. I'm on Twitter a lot, and here's what I see on Twitter. I see a lot of teachers talking about how exhausting this is to teach online, how burned out they are, how they feel like they're inadequate, how they feel like they're not reaching their kids to the best of their ability. And a lot of times I'm seeing this phrase, this is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. This is not sustainable. And I am not one to sit here and argue with people who are in the trenches. I do not have a classroom, but I talk to enough teachers and I coach enough teachers, and I like to think of myself as an empath. So I like to kind of get the idea that I can understand what's going on, and my job is to help. And the first thing I say to teachers is we need to rethink instruction and learning. Online teaching is not the exact same thing as face-to-face teaching. Too many of us are trying to replicate online what we used to do in the classroom, and they're two different beasts. Now, the content and what you teach is important, and how you teach it is important, and what you know and the way you've done it is important. The standards, those are all still really important things. But the methods we use to teach online are designed to make our lives easier. So, we need to rethink the idea of online teaching. We need to remember that work goes to different homes. We need to remember that there are different levels of support in different homes, and that that Zoom fatigue is like a real thing, hashtag Zoom fatigue. Trying to keep kids online all day is exhausting and counterproductive, so that our synchronous times with our kids should actually be less than asynchronous. We should be allowing them to work sort of at their own pace and at their own time. And that's what I'm saying about like post assignments in Google Classroom and then maybe let go. I'm a big fan of Caitlin Tucker, and she is like the goddess of blended learning and concurrent learning and hybrid, whatever you want to call it, flex learning, hybrid, concurrent, whatever we're doing now, live and in person. She believes that this is what we need to do. We need to start allowing students to control the time and the pace of their learning. Student agency is key. And in fact, you'll see there at the bottom, this is what I've been hashtagging and tweeting out. That distance learning is about flexibility, student agency, collaboration, and creativity. And if we can remember those four facets, it will make, hopefully, our learning a little bit easier. Hold on, we've got someone joining. Okay. Hi, Christine. Glad to have you. Okay. So speaking of posting assignments and let go, I know many teachers are finding success right now in literally front-loading a whole bunch of assignments through Google Classroom on Mondays and giving the kiddos until Sunday at midnight to work. Again, if we want, this is a perfect time for student agency, for students to become independent thinkers and to become owners of their learning. So again, I see a lot of teachers front-loading on Monday and saying, hey, here's the stuff we're going to talk about this week. We're going to have some synchronous meetings because teacher time is very important, but the rest of the time, work in groups, crowdsource, work together, work at your own pace. We have to remember that not every home has a device. Not every home has multiple devices. And we have older students who might be babysitting their younger siblings. So we want to keep those things in mind. But the one thing that should not change with online learning is making yourself as visible as possible. And I don't mean staying on all day online. I mean putting your face into everything. It's funny, a lot of teachers don't want to create little Screencastify videos or Flipgrid shorts because they're afraid of what they look like. And yet, when we're in the classroom, they're getting us all day, all the time. So we're going to talk today. You're going to find some ways to insert your face to build those relationships across the divide so that we can sort of get to know our students and keep those relationships important. Okay, so this is the one thing you shouldn't change, is making sure that your face is there for kiddos to see. This is a little, I don't know, this is something I created and put it out on Twitter. You know, I think we are living in the middle. I know a lot of us believe we're in the middle of educational chaos. I'm being hopeful. We talk about mindset with students, and I think we need to become the learners that we want our students to be. So I really want us to consider the fact that we are living in an educational renaissance. I'm not sure we're going to go back to normal. I think we're going to go back to a new normal or a different normal. And for those of you teachers, and I see it every day with the teachers with whom I work, stop beating yourselves up because you don't know every ed tech platform out there, or because you're not tech savvy. It's my favorite quotation from Maya Angelou: do the best you can until you know better. And then when you know better, do better. Okay, my little soapbox moment is done. Let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about today is the Classwork page. So let me go. If you remember last week when we did Google Classroom, we talked about your dashboard. I have created just basically a demo classroom that we're going to talk about today. So the first thing I said was customize your classroom header or banner. You can use Canva, you can use Adobe Spark, or you can use Google Drawings. And what I mean by that is make this personal. Insert, that's the first place you can insert yourself to get your students to see yourself, to see you, is to personalize that banner that sits at the top of our Google Classroom. And here you see I've put my face in here. Now this is a Canva, header. You can get it from Canva. And in fact, in our Wakelet board, I've got a link here. If you just go into Canva and let's see, type in, I'm going to go into Canva. Oh, I'd have to go into my account. Hold on one second. Let me bring up mine. You go into Canva, and Canva is my favorite graphic design tool because they make it so easy. And you type in Google Classroom header. There you go. You can create a blank one. You can customize any of these that they've created. Make it fun. Put your name in there. Put your Bitmoji in there. Put your photo in there. Don't just be generic. This is the first thing that the kids should see. See, I use this one. All right. Also, you can also use, if you love Adobe Spark, and I've been learning Adobe Spark myself this year. I've been having a lot of luck with using Adobe Spark. I honestly, a lot of times, will just even sometimes use a Google Drawing. If you open up a Google Drawing, and if you remember that to set your page setup to 1600 by 400 pixels, which is about the standard size of a Google banner or header, whatever you want to call it, you can go ahead and create your own when you upload a photo. So all you're doing is creating it in Google Drawings, downloading it as a PNG or photo, and then uploading it. And that's the very first place you can put it. If you want to get super duper creative with your header or banner, I recommend clicking this link. I'm not going to get into it too much, but this teacher did a great job of talking about how to decorate your Google Classroom with custom banners. I love this. She let the class choose a name. And then once the class chose a name, she created a banner that represented the name or the theme. They chose themselves from SpongeBob. They became Gary. And so she did this in the spring during pandemic teaching. And again, you create that sense of community. You can also add a GIF or a GIF, whatever you choose to call it, and animate your banner. Lots of teachers, we've seen this, have been using the banner to put in a poster. So you could put in like anything that you might normally have in your face-to-face classroom, like some kind of poster, your motto for the year, the class theme. You could put that in your Google banner. Use your change up your Google banner. It doesn't have to be that way. You could change that bad boy up every week. You know, why not create an anchor chart or for something you're discussing? Keep it there so students always have it. And this is where she got really creative. She created her own virtual classroom using her own Bitmoji. And then she created this little, she changes it up every day with a chalkboard with the agenda. And she's even went so far as to give you a copy so that you could go ahead and make your own, a plain copy or the banner template she just created with the classroom and the chalkboard. So that is there for you. I highly recommend whatever you choose to do. And like I said, you've got 3 options here: Canva, Adobe Spark, or Google Drawings. At least make sure that that's the first thing you do. It's the easiest thing to do, is just to go ahead and change up your banner or your header. Any questions about that? Anyone want to unmute and ask a question? Okay. Let's go on to the next thing you can do to organize your Google Classroom. I saw this on Twitter. That's why there's the little Twitter GIF right there. And I cannot remember where I saw it. Actually, the teacher, Esther Park, saw it, but she found it from somebody else. This is a brilliant idea where when you're creating, as we talked about last week, when you're creating your classroom, instead of putting a section in, why not add your session days and time that you meet? Because I know a lot of schools have gone hybrid. So you might meet in the morning with half the kiddos and in the afternoon with half the kiddos, and it gets so confusing. So again, why not use your Google Classroom banner to do that? So what we can do is right in here, let me go to settings because I've already created it. In section here, I could just go ahead and put there you go. I've put it in my settings. I can change it at any time. And now students are aware, oh, this is the class I have. Again, they don't have to worry about papers or online schedules or things like that. It's just a very simple fix to be able to go ahead and put in the time and the date or the times that you meet. Another quick way another thing you should probably do, and we talked about this a little bit when I talked about Intro to Google Classroom, but in case you weren't with me last week, I want to make this very clear. The stream, I like to use only for announcements. Classwork should go in the classwork, assignments, topics, things like that. What happens, as you can see here, is when I posted an assignment, it automatically appeared in the stream. That can get confusing for students, especially littles. So what I like to do is just keep the stream for announcements. I don't want students searching the stream for assignments. So again, we go over to settings, and classwork on the stream, I'm always going to make sure to click hide notifications. Students need to be notified every time I add something to the classwork tab. It's annoying for everybody and it's a lot. So I always like to make sure I leave the stream open for announcements only. And if I allow students to post, it's where I can respond to their posts as well. The next thing I like to do, okay, yep, that was it for stream. Okay, I wanted to just make sure before we move into, so those are the 3 things you can do. Change up your header, make sure your section has the time and place, make sure you've got we talked about generating your Meet link for next, so you can always have one there, and turning off notifications. Any questions about organizing the stream to make it more effective for remote learning? Awesome. Okay.
Stephanie,
go ahead.
I do have, I'm sorry, I couldn't find the little hand thing. Quick question. Can I use the banner? Like we use Schoology. I'm sure you've heard of Schoology. Can you use that banner? Can you design a banner to put into, I'm sure Schoology as well, but you're just designing that banner because you're putting it in as a PNG, right?
Yes. So like I said, I created it. And in fact, let me just show you. if I go over to like Google Drawings, all right, I'm gonna right click here and change. They always give you a checkerboard background. I always just change the background to white until I decide what color I want to do it based on what I'm using. And, you know, I'll just put in some text. Let me just randomly put in some shapes and texts here. Okay, and an image. All right. So there we go. That's my lovely Google Classroom banner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All I do is go to File, Download, PNG. Now, I don't know I have no idea what the measurements are for a Schoology banner. You're probably gonna, I mean, you could probably Google it.
Yeah, I remember I did something similar, but I like the banner, like with these different locations where you can find those different banners. I like that, so I was gonna change mine up a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, and I just changed, and I forgot to add something. I do remember it's 1600 by 400 pixels.
Right.
So I have to go ahead and change that under page setup. And
okay.
now that looks more like a banner that I would download as a PNG and then upload to my Google Classroom.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Oh my gosh, totally my pleasure. Absolutely. Okay, now let's talk about the Classwork tab and how you can organize things to make it easier for you and your students. The first tip I want to share with you is to use topics, 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 topics. Topics should constantly be used to organize your content. Now, here's the thing. When we were face-to-face, I always encourage teachers to organize their topics by unit or topic of study, or by standard even, and lots of teachers would do that. So Revolutionary War would be a topic, or comma splices would be a topic, or Romeo and Juliet, whatever, mitosis. For online learning, I highly recommend that you organize your topics according to week. So week 1, week 2 with the dates. And you'll notice here the dates, I go Monday to Sunday, not Monday to Friday, because like I talked at the beginning, giving students time to work on things at their own pace is a really crucial part of student agency, blended learning, and remote learning. So you'll see here, I've made some topics here. It's easy to create a topic. You hit create and you go to topic. Right, and then what, November 1st. Oh, all right. Again, notice that every time you create a new topic, it's going to appear at the top, but you can click and drag. All right, we're going to talk about fancy fonts in a minute, but I just want to make sure that you can go ahead and do things by topic. Now, I already hear some of you saying, okay, that's going to be a lot of topics over here on the sidebar. I found one teacher on Twitter who started doing this. That's why I have just not a week here. I've got a month. He would take all of September's assignments. Now, you cannot move a topic into another topic, but he would take the assignments. So let's pretend this was a September assignment. And when he would edit it, he would just simply change the topic and move all assignments. And because he was doing things a week at a time, it was a lot easier for him to do that. So that way, he was just changing the topic name and moving it into the September topic. And that way, it would save students and parents this whole idea of having to scroll through 36 weeks. If, God forbid, we go that long, but that's, it could get super long. And so once you might want to consider just doing weeks per month or weeks per quarter. It's entirely up to you. and then sort of, I guess, for lack of a better word, archiving your assignments into months. So that's the first. I mean, you cannot make, topics are your best way to get yourself organized. Also, be sure to include a topic for important resources and links. So up here, this is, I always keep my important resources and links at the top. So this could be a syllabus. This could be the periodic table of elements. So remember how, if you're handing your students paper when you're face-to-face, you're saying, okay, this goes in the binder or the folder, and you're going to use it all year. That's where you want to create a topic for important resources and links. And I do that all the time in my courses. I call it course information, and I always put information about me and our virtual help desk and virtual office hours and things like that. So again, anything that you want students to keep all year long, you would certainly go ahead and put that, let me go back here, sorry, in your classwork topic under important resources and links. So let's say periodic table of elements. I teach chemistry, and this is something that my kiddos are going to use all year long. I've got this interactive periodic table of elements. I'm going to copy that, copy the URL, and I'm going to create that as a material. Not an assignment. Make sure that materials are those things to which they're going to refer, reference materials. And it's a link. So I'm going to paste it right in there. And I will make sure it's under the topic, important resources and links. And I keep the resource topic, or I keep the important resources and links always at the top of the classwork tab. And that way students always have access to it at any time. We talked about the topic for last month's work. Also, this was the very first piece of advice someone gave to me all the way in 2014 when I started using Google Classroom, to number your assignments. It's so much easier to use the hashtag 0 then 11. Use that to organize and identify your assignments. In fact, let me just show you again. It's so much easier to when, like, if a student is missing something, or you need to go back to them to say, oh, it was in September, it was week 1. But if you can just say, no, it was lesson 3, it was lesson 008, it was lesson 012. I mean, it's so much easier to number your assignments. I have been doing this since 2014, and I have had many teachers who I teach, or students, say it was much easier to find an assignment that way, instead of just having to search and search and search. So that was my best piece of advice ever given to me about Google Classroom, and I'm sharing it with you. Okay, so topics. Any questions about topics? Okay, moving right along. All right. I also, remember I said we want to put ourselves into their learning as much as possible. And this is what I mean. We want to include video of ourselves as much as possible. Oh, I just lost my, there we go. I lost my cursor. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I mean. And you can use Screencastify, Flipgrid Shorts, or what? Even TikTok. I'm going to get to that in a minute, but let me show you what I mean. So in my class, I'm going to go to, I did a book study this past summer about the HyperDoc Handbook. I did an online book study. And every week, I would just go ahead and do a little introduction to everybody. And I would use Flipgrid Shorts, which I have to tell you, Flipgrid Shorts is the easiest way to make a video. It couldn't be easier. You don't have to worry about sharing privileges or anything like that. I'll walk you through that just a bit. But this was, I did a 1-minute introduction every week. So again, because when you're teaching online, you want to make connections. And this was the way I could, at least my students could see my face. Hey there, and welcome to week 2, chapter 2 of the HyperDocs Handbook online book study. This week, you're really going to get into the elements of how to create a HyperDoc, and you're going to kind of create your first draft. I've broken this chapter up into tiny chunks because it's pretty heavy. There's a lot of information, especially if you've really never explored. Okay, blah blah blah. But again, you want to try to include, hey kids, or I've seen teachers do a video for a 5-minute video for a morning meeting, or just, hey, this is what's going on this week. So I highly recommend that you use whatever you're comfortable with. Some teachers like to use Screencastify, as I mentioned, excuse me. I got too many tabs open here. I got to cut some down. So some teachers like to use Screencastify because they will record their screen as they're talking to walk students through ideas. Flipgrid Shorts is super duper easy. Let me just show you how that is. By the way, if you were unable to attend my Screencastify, Intro to Screencastify webinar, I do have that linked in our Wakelet board. So you can go and kind of do a review there if you would like. But if you want to just do a super duper quick video in Flipgrid Shorts, you go up to here. You can see I do them all the time. Big dork. And don't even really care what I look like sometimes. Look at that. All right, and it's just super easy. You hit record a video and you make the video, and as you can see, once you've made the video, you have a link to it, or you can download it. So again, very, very easy, or just go ahead. It's Google Classroom integrated. Go ahead and put it right in your Google Classroom. So that is pretty easy to do. I want to talk about TikTok for a minute. TikTok is becoming the place for teachers to meet. And I will tell you something. My first video, I've been trying to find 60-second PD for years. I've been thinking, what's the quickest way I can give teachers information? And TikTok has been my savior. I'm reaching more teachers on TikTok than anywhere. And I know people are like, oh, it's just for stupid dances. Again, once you start getting in there and start following teachers, even if you go in there and search Google Classroom, you're going to get, TikTok starts to pick up what you want to learn and the things you want to learn about. You could get ideas from other teachers and see how they're connecting with their students. But before you poo-poo it, I have a great article here called How to Effectively Use TikTok in Your Classroom. I ask that you give it a read. It's a very quick read, but it talks about how, especially in a COVID world, how are we meeting our students? And this is really a great place in this article to talk about how we can, these are teachers who have tried it, who have gotten to know their teacher and have used it in a creative and not an inappropriate way. So again, it all depends on you. If you want it to, be good or whatever you want. So that's all I'm saying. Just somehow get your students to see your face, your choice. Questions about video intros? Okay, moving right along. Okay, I said I was going to talk to you about emojis and texts and having fun with it. Okay, yes, it's cute. Yes, it's super cute to add emojis to the front of your work, okay, your topics or to your assignments or anything, and it is super cute. But there's also a method to my madness when I do this. I do it especially for littles or English language learners, emerging readers. So if you teach littles, or if they may not understand how to read this, but if you said it's the week where it's zombie week, it's ghost week, it's backpack week. These, this generation of learners is very visual. So having a little emoji before a topic is a real great visual cue for students. Also, you can choose to change the font. So as we saw when I created a new topic here, this is the generic font I get. You could change the font for each quarter or change the font for each month. Again, giving students a visual cue as to what they should be seeing. All right. I also, speaking of littles, this was an idea I got from Christine Pinto's book, Google Apps for Littles, Yes, They Can. Because again, a lot of you are elementary school teachers, or you have friends who are elementary school teachers. Christine Pinto came up with the idea of, in the directions for an assignment, putting a note to parents in there. And I like putting a note to parents in a different font because it makes it stand out. So this is an example of a kindergarten students, kindergarten, first grade, doing shape sorting. I haven't added this was just an example. I haven't added the attachment, but let's pretend I did. So open the Google Slides, shape sort, practice sorting, and then just turn in when done. But then I added directions here for parents or caregivers or guardians. You know, hey, this is what else you can do to extend the learning, not just, you know, beyond the online classroom or the face-to-face classroom, extend the learning at home. It's also a great way to interact with your students. And again, because I like to set this aside, I use a different font when I'm giving details to parents. Okay, so you're asking, okay, it's all well and good, but how is this done? All right, so the first thing I like to do, and I've put the links again in our Wakelet board. There's two emoji sites I've given you, Emojipedia and Emojicopy. And they're both super easy. This one is my favorite lately. I don't know why. It seems that they have more emoji. Emojicopy seems to have more emojis than Emojipedia. So again, let's see. I just put in week 9 and it's October, it's Halloween. So let me search for a Halloween emoji. Whoops. Okay. So let's see what comes up for Halloween. Oh, a little mask. Let's see. Oh, black cat. I'll do a black cat. I just click it. And here it appears. It's going to appear right down in here. And all I do is click copy. Let me go back to my topic for week 9. If I click the 3 dots, I can rename it. And I just paste the black cat right there. Although sometimes you're going to get an issue like that. Let's see. So sometimes you're going to see that the emoji won't work. No worries. Let me go back. And instead of the black cat, let's try just the bat. How about that? Copy. Paste. There we go. Rename. Okay. So there we go. And then again, so it's as simple as that, adding an emoji before your topic title. Okay. Now you also want to talk about how to change the font. How do you change the font, for the topics, for directions? So there's 2 ways you can do that. There's Fancy Text Generator or Font Generator, Cool Fancy Text Generator. All right. So I'm going to click Fancy Text Generator. And I'm going to go back to my Google Classroom, hit rename. And I'm just going to copy the text that I've already created, or you can copy or you can type it directly into the bar up here. Okay, so if I type that in, I have all of these different options, and it goes on. Some don't make sense. Okay, some are weird. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. I like to go for simple. Sometimes I like to go for fun. Like I said, you can change it up week. I wouldn't recommend changing it up week by week, but maybe if you want to change it by month or by quarter, it's up to you. Yeah, some of them are super weird. Whatevs. I'm going to go with what I know, which was this one. It's automatically copied. That's it. I click on it. It automatically copies. I go back to my classwork and I hit paste. Hit rename. And there you go. It's that simple. Any other questions about changing up the emojis or the fonts to make it easier for your students? Okay, moving right ahead. All right, now this is where I'm going to ask you a big question, because this is going to depend on your school or your personal preferences and whoever talked about the grading. So I've got 2 yes or no questions. Should you or have you added a co-teacher to your Google Classroom? Again, I know a couple of teachers who have done that, who have gone ahead because either like I saw a group of 3rd grade teachers who created one giant Google Classroom for 3rd grade. Instead of creating one per teacher, they created one per grade and then added all the other teachers as co-teachers to their classroom. So I wanted to get some feedback from any of you. Have any of you tried that, heard of it? Again, when we think about making things easier on our students, is it better to have one classroom per grade level or one classroom per subject and add teachers to it? Or invite specials teachers to, our special needs teachers, our intervention specialists to our classroom. So I'd like some thoughts on that, because I know that some teachers do that, but I'd like to know if anyone has any experiences in adding a co-teacher that they'd like to share.
I'm a co-teacher. This is Ingrid, and in the chat, Natalie has 2 co-teachers on 2 of her classes.
I see that. Okay, Natalie, can you tell us about that? Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, so I actually teach at the high school level, so it might be a little bit different. So
Well, actually, I'd be interested to hear how people are doing it at the high school level.
Yeah, so I teach high school math, and I co-teach 2 classes that are with the intervention specialist.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not as typical co-teaching, because I still do all the grading and stuff like that. But it's just more so if she had to post an announcement for the kids, she can post it as well.
Okay. And how is that working out for you?
It's been working really well so far.
Okay. That's
Stephanie, I'm at the middle school and I'm title, and right now I'm pushing into several 7th grade ELA classes. I actually wanted your input on this because I'm going to be pulling groups across Google Classrooms, and I'm not sure how to set that up or what you would recommend.
Wait, so say that again. You're going to be
In other words, I'm looking at current diagnostic data, and they want me to pull groups of 6th grade groups, 7th grade groups, and 8th grade groups. And I'm connected to all the teachers in Power School, and I don't know whether I make my own Google classes or I try to co-teach with all the different teachers so that I can have access to those students.
Okay. So, Ingrid, from what I've heard, special needs teachers, intervention specialists, Title I teachers have been added. It seems to work best when they're added as co-teachers. Because you know that in Google Classroom, you could, as a co-teacher, you would be able to assign work just to certain students. You don't, just because if you assign something to a few of your students that are in that class, it's only going to go to them. You can assign things only by students. So I will tell you, based on my experience and from what I'm hearing, it's better for you to be a co-teacher in other teachers' classrooms.
However, some teachers might not want that.
Okay.
Right? You understand, not everybody wants you to have the power.
Yeah. I know. Which again, this is the time when we are all supposed to be working together. So I don't understand that. And I'm not going to condemn, who am I to condemn it, but or judge it. But I just think it's probably not the best thing. I think it's not in the best interest of our students. Because again, the more places we have to click, the more confusing it's going to be and the more work it's going to be for everybody. So again, I think if you don't have total 100% buy-in, if you don't, Ingrid, if you don't have teachers who are like, you know what, yes, you can be a co-teacher, then I would just go, instead of doing half of one and 6 of another, I would literally just, if I were you in this situation, I would create your own Google Classroom, like your own space.
Okay.
Okay, and I see in your chat, no, you cannot change the font colors. Once Google Classroom, here, let me show you again. Once Google Classroom has established the theme, the colors pretty much stayed the same. But the colors of your emojis get to be anything that they are. So that might be helpful, if at all possible. Okay, so here's my next question up for debate. I have seen some teachers, so for example, I was a high school English teacher. I taught 9th and 10th grade, and I taught 2 sections of each. Would it be better for me as a teacher to combine all of my 9th graders into my English 9 Google Classroom and all of my 10th graders into my 10th grade Google Classroom? So I'd have 2 classrooms, or is it better to have, again, separate sections, just like Classroom? Now, again, there's pros and cons to this. I think the pro to this is that, you know, grading, monitoring class comments and private comments, giving feedback, answering questions is going to be much harder if you have multiple classrooms. But here's the thing, if you have all of your students in one classroom, if I have all my 9th graders in my English 9 class, how does that work out for my grade book? You know, so I don't know. So again, this is another point for discussion. Do you believe it would be better to combine all students in one Google Classroom, or should we keep separate sections? Again, just trying to think in terms of workflow. Any thoughts or ideas?
I think it's more difficult if they're all in one room. We're experiencing this only because of differentiation and pacing. So if you have a class that's accelerated, then you're playing around with who you're assigning it to, and it's not all a one fell swoop.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Again, these are things I've seen. Those were those 2 things I've seen teachers doing, and it got me thinking: is this, because I saw it on Twitter, and some teachers were like rah rah rah, and other teachers were like, no, not working for me. I can't do this. So I was just kind of wondering. The option is there, but I wanted to present the pros and cons. Okay, thank you for sharing. I appreciate it. Okay, now the last thing I want to talk about is grading and feedback, because I will argue, fight me, that feedback is more important than a final grade. So there are a couple ways that you can do this. I know, and we did talk about this in the Screencastify webinar, which, by the way, I have the link to our Screencastify webinar if you're interested. But I've also put the link here too. I have seen teachers give video feedback with Screencastify. So again, being an English teacher, I wish I had this, where, you know, I'd be able to open up student work in my Google Classroom, use Screencastify to talk over their paper, and give them actual visual feedback. So I highly recommend using Screencastify. Oh, sorry about that. I highly recommend using Screencastify for feedback in Google Classroom. So all you have to do is open up their work. You know, you would go to the grades or the assignments, and you'd open them up and you'd be able to grade them, and use Screencastify to give them feedback. We talked about this last week, how to use the comment bank and hashtags to give easy peasy work or comments and feedback. Whoops, and again, I have that. How to use the comment bank in Google Classroom, fancy feedback tips and tricks. The first part of the video just talks about how to use the comment bank in Google Classroom, and then how to provide tips and tricks. And I briefly touched on this last week with Intro to Google Classroom. Those are 2 videos, and I've also got a tutorial. I also recommend Moat. Moat is, let's see, If I wanted to, Moat is voice recognition. So let's say I wanted to comment on this student's work and I hit the comment, and where is my Moat? Does it not work? Must not work. Eclipse. Okay, so I'm working on something right now, a freebie that I'm going to give to teachers. And there you go. I'm highlighting it, and if I click Moat, I can provide verbal audio feedback, which is really perfect, again, for littles, emerging readers, and English language learners. And all I do is here I am talking. And there you go. Students get a link to it, and they can listen to your audio recordings. Now, again, I did mention this last week. Moat is not free, but it's also not super expensive. I believe it's $49 for a year, $50 for a year. And if you talk to your admin about how you're going to be giving feedback, I'm pretty sure that your admin is going to be like, yeah, we need that. And finally, the other thing I want to talk about is digital stickers. So I had a blast with digital stickers. So I had a super fun time with this. This is a way for you to put yourself into learning. Again, we talk about stickers, but we never really talk about digital stickers. So I've created for you, and let me walk you through it here. It's in my webinars. I created a digital sticker template for you. It's in Wakelet, and all you need to do is make a copy of it. And I've also put directions in there for you to walk you through the process. All right. But it's as simple as, let me make a new one. You make a 3x3 drawing. And using the Bitmoji Chrome extension. So up here, I've got Bitmoji Chrome extension. I type in pose. And I can right click on that to copy my image of my Bitmoji. And I'm going to paste it in there. And then using this new, hey, I learned about this on TikTok. A teacher was talking about this textgiraffe.com. You can make your own sort of logos. Great work. I'm going to right click on that. Well, first let me click on it. So you get all of these different crazy fun logos. I'm going to right click on it. Let's go back and put it in there, paste it in. Okay, and again, I'll change the background, maybe add a circle, kind of like you see here. Let me make that a little bigger for you. All right, and same thing. I download the image. Okay, if I go ahead and download the image to a PNG file, here's the cool thing I can do. I can upload it to Google Keep. And if you haven't used Google Keep before, don't worry. In fact, I've got two links in here in this digital sticker template for you to how to make your own digital Bitmoji stickers in case you need a tutorial. But you put them in Google Keep, and as you can see here, I'm going to click Google Keep. I would be able to add my digital stickers to student work. So if I go over, let's say this is something that the student did, and I go over here and I click Keep, and I get my digital sticker, and I can add it as a comment, or I can just click and drag it into their work, resize it. By the way, this is that's a sticker I just made with myself in it, and I've got another tutorial for you on that too if you have the time and want to play with it. But I'm putting myself and a little sticker in student work instead of just words. Again, perfect for, it's perfect for anybody. Even I got this idea from a high school teacher. Her high school kids love it, these digital stickers that you put into Keep. So don't panic, because I've got, like I said, I've got the sticker template there for you. And Esther Park, who I follow on Twitter, she's amazing. If you want to follow anybody on Twitter, you have to follow this woman, Miss Park Shines. But she's got a YouTube video here on how to to make those
Hi guys, this is Esther Plar.
video stickers.
So I got a bunch of questions on how I created and saved these personalized digital.
Okay, so there's a YouTube video there, so you can learn how to do it yourself. And I just I made one this morning and tweeted it out. I said that your students need to see you as much as possible, and then I made my own there too. So it's fun to give those digital stickers. It's a fun way to be silly and goofy and show your students who you are, but also a way to connect with them as well. So just thought those would be fun for you to try out and share with your colleagues. And you know what? I bet you guys could work through it together. Okay, and then the last thing I wanted to share with you, it's not on the slide, but remember I talked about how you might want to consider pushing workout on Monday and giving students till Sunday. So again, maybe you don't need to list a whole bunch of directions in Google Classroom. Maybe instead you can use, and I've put a link here to SlidesMania. SlidesMania has been making these weekly planners since COVID started. And these weekly planners are where in Google Slides or PowerPoint, whatever you use, and it's a list of, like, here's an elementary weekly agenda. You could just create the slide and put a link to it in your Google Classroom instead of putting a whole bunch of explanations for directions. And students know what to expect on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and you add some text. So I did put a link to all of the weekly planners in there. All right, we have about 2 more minutes. I just wanted to show you, in order to get your certificate of learning for today, I'm going to need you to fill out this Google form that's in our Wakelet board. I will go ahead and put the recorded webinar in our Wakelet board as well once it's ready. If you need any free coaching or hand holding, please don't hesitate to sign up. I have office hours and free appointments. You can click that to look at what I've got offering up until the end of December. And this is a link to my website, which I pointed out. I'm running a promotion for the month of October called Trick or Tweet, where teachers are giving me their online learning problems and I'm solving them for them. And these are all free for you to use. So please, by all means, use them.